Hey everyone, it's Kathy and you're back here on my YouTube channel, Kathy's Random Acts of Stampin'. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator and I'm located here in the beautiful state of North Carolina, but I can take care of your stamping needs no matter where you live across the United States of America. So if you're joining me today, we are going to start off with our series, and I'm only going to do one Christmas item per week. And the reason I'm going to do that is because there's so many other beautiful products that I want to show you, but I don't want to miss the fact that Christmas in July is a big thing. And I think that so many people do it. It's a little bit sometimes an overflux, but I do want to bring you at least one project a week. I'm probably going to do that on Monday. I was going to do it on Fridays, but I am having a procedure done on the 15th, and I probably won't get a video out that day unless I can do something ahead of time, and that all depends on how my week goes. Y'all know how it is. But anyway, we're going to be, I can actually open this catalog. So we're going to be looking at something out of our brand new mini catalog. This just premiered on July the 1st, and it is packed. I mean, absolutely packed with beautiful. Let me get over to where they start talking about the sweets and the products. Look at this. Sweetest Christmas Sweet, and you get all of this. You get 2 stamp sets, 2 die sets, ribbon, gems, specialty paper, designer series paper. This one is a little more pricey because you are getting so much, but $133, and you could knock out all of your Christmas cards with these 2 stamp sets because they do so much, and they actually intertwine with each other to the point that you could you can mix and match your dies and your stamps together to create some lovely, lovely Christmas cards. But this shows the individual stamps, the sweet candy canes, and the Christmas banner. It's just absolutely a beautiful catalog this year. I think Stampin' Up! Outdid themselves with all of their beautiful. This one here, Santa's Express, y'all will see me working with this before too much longer. These are absolutely stupendous, and I can't wait to show you. This one right here is absolutely gorgeous. I'm not going to go through the entire catalog. I want to thumb over to where we're going to work today. And today, now everybody that knows me knows that I'm a doggy lover. So of course I had to have the Christmas Scottie bundle, and you get this punch and the stamp set, and it's a great price at $36.75. It is so stinking cute. The punch will punch out a bow and your Scottie dog, and this is what it looks like underneath. Here's your stamp set, and I have pulled out my circle dies to play with this with. I think it's so cute. You get this cute little plaid, and I'm not using it. I did play with it. As you can see, it's red. I had tried it in red and green. It wasn't doing for me exactly what I wanted it to do, but nevertheless, let me show you what it looks like. It is a beautiful piece once it is stamped out. So here it is in the green, and here it is in red, and either one of these would be lovely on a card, but I needed a circle of it. It is a little bit hard to line it up just like you want it to get one big piece, so I decided to go with some plaid paper, and I'll show you all that as we get going with this. I'm going to lay my punch over here because we're not going to need that for a few minutes, my stamp set. We're also going to be using the layering circle dies because they're going to play a big part in this card, and this is what our card's going to look like. Yes, I've got acetate in there so you can see through. I have not put my sentiment on this one. I just did my decoration. I did my front. I cut my circle out. I did a little framelit. I'm going to show y'all how to do that using the circle dies. The same thing here. I cut a piece of the paper, and this paper actually came from a pack called, let me grab that little catalog and I can show it to you. And it is a beautiful pack of paper. It's actually one of the fall papers, but it's got all different colors in it, and it's beautiful, and I think it would play well in your fall cards as well as your Christmas cards. And it is located right here on page 82, and it is the Gingham Cottage 12 by 12, and I used this piece right here. And I just cut a small circle, and we're going to go back and revisit all of this, and I'm going to show you exactly how I made this whole card come together. Plus we're going to do our sentiment. We're probably even going to be doing some embossing, so some gold embossing at that. So I think y'all are going to enjoy the process of making this card. So the first thing I want you to look at is I have a real red card base, and this is actually cut at 8.5 by 5.5, and I scored it at 4 1/4. Simple A2 size card. No surprise there. The other thing that I'm using is this Lights Aglow Designer Series paper, and this is a 6x6 paper pack, and it is stunning. Look at this. Look at that red. I'm using the green in that same pattern, and let me find my piece. Oh, there it is. We're going to go ahead and make this one. Would be pretty too. That one would be gorgeous. Now it has me wondering, do I want to try this one on the second card? Maybe I do. Let's go ahead and change it up just a little bit. You know, change can be good. So let's go ahead and do that one with this piece. And I love those snowflakes. And this paper has little flecks of gold in it. Do y'all see that? I don't know if the light's catching it where you can see it, but there are little gold, there it goes, there's little gold flecks all through this paper. And even this one, can you see the gold in it? Every sheet of this has some beautiful gold accents in it. You get one side that doesn't have gold and one side that does, but isn't that gorgeous? Just absolutely a stunning pack of paper. So if you haven't seen this, this pack was easy to overlook. In fact, I didn't see it at first, and when I went back, I was like, oh my word, this paper is gorgeous. And of course I had to have it because it has gold in it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this piece for my mat for the front of my card before we go any further. So for this particular card, with it being 4.5 by 5.5, I want this to be 4 1/4 by 5 1/4. Oh, I'm sorry, 4. This card is 4 1/4 by 5.5. So I want my mat to be 4 inches by 5 1/4. So I'm gonna line this up at my 4-inch line, and I'm just gonna slice, and then I'm gonna turn it 1/4 of a turn and bring it to 5 1/4, and I'm going to slice. Now this is going to give us our mat for the front of our card, and look how pretty that is against the red. I think it just lends a very pretty festive edge to that paper. So the next thing we're going to do, we're going to grab some liquid glue. You do not want to put glue in the middle. You only want to glue the outside edge. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make little tiny glue swirls all around my outside edges, just like that. And then I'm going to bring this over and I'm going to glue it down. Now if you wanted that gold to shine a little bit more, you could cut a gold mat and put behind this, and then this mat would be one size smaller, but you could do that if you wanted to bulk your card up a little bit. I think I'm going to have enough going on inside that I don't need any more bulk. I am going to grab my bone folder and I'm going to crease this fold down really good, and I'm just going to iron that glue out around the edges of the paper, just like that. And now what we're going to do, we're going to cut a circle out of the middle of this, and I just need the circle to be right here. So I'm going to grab my die cut and bring this over. And this is my frame that I'm using to cut my little framelets. So we're going to need this particular die right here to use to cut this out. So we'll just have to glue these back together if we need one. So what I want to do is I want it to be up to the top a little bit, but more room at the bottom than at the top. And I want to kind of eyeball center from this side to this side of your designer series paper. Once I get it like I want it, I'm just going to simply take one of my little tags and put that there just to kind of hold it in place. And I'm just going to take it over to my die machine, and I'm going to run this through off camera just to help this go a little bit faster. And then when you cut this out, this is what you're going to have. This is going to lift off like so. You're going to have two pieces now because we didn't put any glue in the middle of that. There's something on my card right there. Hopefully it's just water and it'll dry. I think it is. But anyway, now we have this. So I had already cut one of these little frames, and I'm going to show y'all how I did that. All I'm going to do is glue that down on top of here. That is going to give us a nice little covering around that openness. It's not stitched or anything, it's just a plain cut circle. So anytime I do that, just for a little bit of decorativeness, I like to frame it. And how you make a frame, you might ask? I'll show you. We're going to take another piece of our red. I'm going to lay that one over there. We're going to lay our scallop circle. The scallop is just a little bit bigger. This fits in there just with a tiny bit of a border all the way around. So I'm going to put this in all the way up here, and this right in the middle, and I'm going to pull it until I get it just about like I want it. When I see that my edges look pretty even all the way around, I am going to tape that down. Even using the magnetic mat, I would suggest to tape that down because they do have a tendency to want to move on you. We don't want this to move or shift because that will mess up our little circle. So I do need one more, so I'm going to push this through, and then when I bring this back over, we are going to pull this up and this, and then I'm just going to lift my paper and my dies. Now I'm going to use just a little something to help me lift that, and there you have that beautiful frame, and we have another circle. Save your circles because you will need them. So I now have 3 of these, and that's exactly what I'll need. You'll need 3 of those cut. And if you're looking at, I don't know if you have these, if you do, you're going to be using your smaller size on this side of circles, and it's the largest of the smaller set. And you're also going to, I need to keep that out because I need to use it again. You're also going to be using the larger of the scalloped on this side. So your largest circle and your largest scallop from this side of your dies. So that, if that helps you any, that's the ones you want. You just want to make sure that whichever size you use, that this is the size of the circle you cut out, because these frames will then frame it. Alright, I'm going to lay my frames over to the side and my dies. I like to keep up with my dies as I use them, so I don't have to chase them down after I'm done, because it's easier to put them back where they belong, you know, from the get-go. Alright, the next thing I want to do, I'm just going to lay my machine together over here, and let's bring our card back over. We're going to need to cut a piece of acetate. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. If you have these are the sheets that come off of our photopolymer stamps, and I saved mine for just this reason. If you notice, this card has acetate on the window, but look, if the Scottie dog is holding in the middle of that window, so you have, it looks like there's a doggy in the window. I love that. And then that plaid behind him, I think, is just absolutely gorgeous. And of course I framed that. I also framed this so that it would cover up the raw edges of my acetate. Now let me show you what we're going to do with the acetate. And I want to make sure I'm doing the right size. Yep, we're using that we need one size bigger for the window, for the acetate. So not this one. We need one size bigger, so we're going to grab this one because that would be one size bigger. And I hope that's correct. Let's see. Yep. So I'm going to lay this down right here, and I do want to tell you, anytime you're cutting through acetate, it is a little bit harder of a material to cut through. You're going to need a shim, and all a shim is going to be is a piece of cardstock. You might want to fold it, but if it's a thin weight of cardstock like this, just fold it. I like to fold mine in two and really crease it down so it's not as bulky. Just like that. And I'm going to run this through probably about 3 times just to make sure that I hopefully get it cut all the way through. So I'm going to put this shim under it, and then I'm going to put the plate over it. Alright, I'm going to leave that on the magnetic plate. I'm going to bring this down to here, put this down right there, and cover it, and let's run it through. Like I said, I'm going to run it through about 3 or 4 times passes to see if I can get that to cut for me. And just remember, acetate is a little harder to cut. Now, it did cut all the way through my cardstock, so that should mean that my acetate was cut too, and it is, I think. Yep. My first piece I cut did not want to cooperate with me, but I didn't use a shim, and I thought, okay, I want to be able to tell you exactly what you need to use in order to get that to work for you. Then what we're going to do, we're going to sit that down right on top of that circle on the back. That's going to give you your window into this card. So what I want to do first is, I think I'm going to go ahead and stamp my Scottie. So I'm going to lay these pieces over to the side. We know we have them cut now. Everything is going to work beautifully. So I need a piece of scrap white. Alright, there's a nice little scrap of white cardstock, and we are going to bring over our Stamparatus for this. And the reason I'm needing the Stamparatus is because this is a solid image, and anytime you are stamping a solid image like the Scottie, and see how cute he is, he stamps the eyes and the outline around it, and the punch punches it out beautifully. So what we're going to do is we're just going to adhere this piece of cardstock down. I'm going to bring it out to about there. Put one magnet there and one down here, just to make sure everything holds in place. And out of my stamps, you get 3 Scotties, but this is the only one that actually punches from the punch. So we're going to use him. These other ones are adorable too, but you would need to fussy cut those, or either use a, I think I'm going to put him right about there. Let me look at my punch. Yep, that would be a good place for him. Always look at your punch before you position. That will help you position your stamp where it's easier to cut it out. And I usually try to always look at that before I actually do my stamping. So I'm going to go ahead and pick up my little Scottie dog. I've never owned a Scottie, but they are cute little dogs. Y'all know that I'm absolutely a fan of my Shih Tzus because they are just such well-behaved and loving dogs that I couldn't imagine another breed. But it's not to say that another breed would not be as wonderful. I prefer my little Shih Tzus. So I'm going to come over now with my Memento Tuxedo Black ink, and we are going to just give him a good inking. But remember, because we're using the Stamparatus, we can re-ink and re-ink and re-ink. So say we definitely need to ink it again. I'm going to also get out my little tool that will help me get a better image. Oh, that's vibrant, very vibrant and black. That's what I wanted. But see his little eyeball? I think that is so precious, the way that works out there. So the other thing I want to do before I even take this out is I want to do his collar. Now there's a piece in here for his collar, but I want to tell y'all what's just as easy is to take a real red, this is the dark real red Stampin' Blend marker, use the bullet tip, and let me show you, and I'm going to do it right here before I go any further. Just draw in his collar. Just like that. That's simple, that easy, and you don't have to worry about trying to line up a stamp. I find that so easy to do, and you can make his collar any color you wanted it, but I wanted the red because I wanted it to tie in with our Christmas theme. Alright, I'm going to clean off that block, or that stamp. So I'm just going to give that a good wipe with my Simply Chamois. Clean that up really well, and move my stamp back and put it back in the case. I like to do this as soon as I use them. Y'all know I love to clean my stamps and then get them back where they belong ASAP. Now remember, no matter what color inks you're using, your photopolymer stamps will stain. You can see this one stained a little bit, this one stained, and so is this one. Those are the three that I have used out of here thus far. So some inks stain more than others, but just remember that if you are working with you know, inks that have a high pigment. The reds are definitely, any of the dark greens and blues will have a tendency to stain up on your stamps. But a stained stamp is not a dirty stamp, it's just a loved one. So I'm going to take Scottie and I'm going to put him into the punch, and I'm going to line him up where I see a little bit of white around him. And if you just hold the punch, you just hold it barely in, you can adjust it to get your lines exactly where you want them. And that looks just about perfect. And there's our Scottie. How cute is that? I love punches because you can do so much with them. So now I'm going to bring that acetate piece back over, and I do want to dust it off, so I'm just going to grab a microfiber cloth. If I can get my hand on one, and I'm just going to go over it just like that, just to clean it. You know that it's staticky, it picks up dust and what have you, so I do want it to be clean when I put it in my card. So I think what I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and glue this in first, and to do that, again, I'm going to grab my fine tip bottle of glue, and I am just going to run a simple line of glue around this circle, just around the outer edge of the circle. You don't want a whole lot of glue because you don't want it to ooze out onto your acetate, but you do want enough that's going to hold it. So just, you know, just squiggle a line of glue across here, around, all the way around, staying as close to that opening as you possibly can. That will be very important when you glue down that piece of acetate. So something like that, and now we can take our acetate and just lay it down. And you're going to see how the glue will kind of smush out. You can see it under it, and that's okay, that's what we want. Now once you get that on, you can come around to the front and just look and see if there's any oozing of glue. If it is, just wipe it off. Alright, before we go any further with the front, this is what one of these frames is for. We're going to cover up the edge of that acetate by putting this little frame around it. So again, I'm going to use the fine tip glue, and I'm just going to run a bead of glue just like we did around that circle. This time we're just running it around this framelit. And then you want to very gently sit it down and just even it up. Just like that. Give it a nice gentle press. And we're just going to leave that and let that dry. Now we can take our Scottie, because he's going to live right here on the front. Just right there. Isn't that neat? We're going to use that same circle, that very same circle punch. Make sure I got the right one. Nope, it needs to be the smaller one. This larger one is the one you need to do your acetate with, because it needs to be a little bit bigger so you have room to glue it. This is the one that we need to put over top of that circle. It's the one that's the same size as our hole. So that's what this piece needs to be cut from. So I'm going to take this and die cut a piece of this. And this is what we have when we come out. We have this little piece right there. We're also going to need a mat for the inside of this. And I think what we're going to do is we're going to mat it in white. I think white would really make the red pop. So I'm going to grab a white card base, or mat, not a base but a mat, and I'm going to cut this down to 4 by 5 1/4, and let's do that right here. Now all these measurements are going to be in the description, and or the blog post. The link to the blog post is going to be in the description, and from there you'll be able to get a PDF template, or a PDF file that will have pictures of the card. It will also have all of the dimensions, all the items that I used, and exactly how we put this card together. So that will be very useful if you want to reproduce this particular card. And I hope you do, because there's no finer compliment than to see someone remake a card that I show you how to do. That always makes my heart happy. It makes me smile. So please feel free to case any of my cards that you see. And you might wonder, what does CASE stand for? C-A-S-E. It's very simple. Copy and share everything. So that's what we all do as card makers. We see an idea. You know what? I traced that down when it should have been traced on this. No wonder I couldn't see it. I know y'all couldn't. Alright, I'm going to put this in like that. And I'm going to go and iron these edges, because they're kind of curled up just a tiny bit from where the blade cut into the paper. Alright, that's nice and flat now. So now I can actually sit this in here. I just want to make sure that my plaid is going in the direction that I want it, and that is like just like that. You might need to pick it up and twist it to get it exactly like you want it, but then lay it down, hold it with one hand, and I'm just gonna hold it with 2 hands or 2 fingers. I'm just going to put some Stampin' Seal over this. I probably made a boo-boo, but let's see. I'm going to see if I can look at it from underneath, and that looks pretty good. So I'm just going to fold that over and press. And that put that exactly where I need it to be. Cool trick, huh? So now we're going to take our little Scottie dog and we're going to pop him up on some dimensionals. So let me grab my dimensionals, and we are going to put one here. maybe one right there. I want to make sure he's stuck pretty good, so we're not going to skimp on our Stampin' Dimensionals where our little Scottie dog is concerned. We're going to cover him pretty well. And maybe one more right there, and maybe one in the middle. What do y'all think? One more in the middle. Okay. Then I'm going to grab my Take Your Pick tool because that makes it easy for me to lift these off. By lifting them off, I can kind of wrangle them up in one spot. Makes it easier for me to get them in the trash can. Just like that. Now all I have to do is bring my card back over, if I can get those little boogers out of the way. And what I want to do is I want to sit Scottie right in the middle of our acetate. Right about there. Isn't that cute? It's coming together, y'all. And you know what? I think I like this one with the stars as equally as much as I like this one. Isn't that cute? Very different. And I think this one I might even use a different bow than the black and white gingham. Okay. That way it will give us a little bit different look in our card, but yet it will be the same design. I love to do that. I love to have a little bit different look. Now I want to look and see. Let's see if I have some gold ribbon. And I do. This is the gold shimmer. And that is so rich and beautiful. I think it's gonna look beautiful in front of this card with all of those gold flecks. But before we go any further, I wanna do some embossing. So I think what I wanna do, or before I tell you what, before we go any further, let's cover up. You see how ugly that looks? Well, we can take care of that very easily. All we have to do is punch another little Scottie out of black cardstock. No stamping, no nothing. Just a little Scottie out of black. And then all we have to do is glue him down. And I like to use glue dots for this, and I'll tell you why. So much easier to glue him with glue dots to the acetate. So I'm going to pull my glue dots. And we're going to put glue dots on this side of him. Make sure you lay him down and make sure you know which way he needs to go. And let's put one there. And one on his foot. And maybe one down on this foot. The glue dots being smaller, you have more of a opportunity to get them in the places where they're needed the most. We can do one. Let's do one right there on his tail. See what I mean? The Stamping Dimensionals, I probably could have went and got a mini, or I could have cut some, but you know, that was plenty to hold him. And I'm going to get one right for the center, right about here. I think that'll hold him perfect. Now what you want to do when you put him on here, you want to line him up like so. And just press him down. And then you've got your Scottie that's covering up all of your inner workings. Isn't that cute? So now we have Scottie on there and he's all good to go. So the other thing I want to do is I want to put another one of these frames on the outside here. Just like that. See how that dresses everything up? So we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to take my fine tip glue and I am going to run a bead. Let me work my magic on my hole. It seems like I've got a little bit of a clump in there. Let's see how that works now. Much, much better. Just like that. And okay, I got glue on Scottie. Let's hope that's gonna be okay. Be careful and try not to drop this onto your acetate or your black Scottie. And I'm just going to ease that around, and I'm going to try to push it around that. So once you push it down or glue it down, you got a little wiggle room where you can take your finger and just kind of mash it up and in, and that makes for a perfect little frame. See how simple that was? I did get some glue right here. I am going to take my little gunk eraser, and I'm just going to roll that glue off of there. If you get glue on the other part of your card, you want to try to get it off, because if you leave it there, it may end up causing a little bit of stickiness. We don't want that. Now, I did bring up a little bit of paper there. I didn't mean to, but we're going to put a sentiment on there, and that's exactly where I want my sentiment to go. So I think we're going to be okay. I think we're going to be okay right there. So the next thing that I want to do is let's go ahead and glue down this frame. This is why you need a 3. One for the front outside, one for the front inside, and one for this inside mat. So that's why you need 3 of those. So let's go ahead and put glue on this, and just like that. Now I'm going to bring it up on both sides, glue it down, bring that down to where it meets. And again, you just want to push that frame up around that while the glue is still wet. That way you can manipulate it for just a very few minutes before that glue starts to take shape. So there is the bases of our card. So now what we have to do is a little bit of decorating, some sentiments, and we should be good to go and call this a done deal. So the next thing I want to do is, I think on this area right here, I want to do a piece of black, and I'm going to cut a strip maybe about 1 inch wide off of this piece, and this piece is about 2 3/4. So 2 3/4 by 1 inch. So I'm going to bring that right over to the 1 inch, and I'm going to check and make sure that my stamp will fit on there. Let's go 1 1/4. That'll give us a little extra room. And let's make sure that this is 2 3/4. So I'm going to line it up right at 2 3/4 and slice it so that we'll have exact measurements when I'm writing this out. It makes it so much easier if I've got the exact measurements that I need to do this with. So what I want to do is I want to do some heat embossing on this, and I think it'd be so cute to bring in some gold, because I think that will bring to life the gold flecks in that green paper. So I'm going to go ahead and take this one that says, "May your days be furry and bright." Isn't that cute? And I'm going to lay that down right in the middle of that, just like that. I'm going to grab a stamp block, and I'm going to grab my Versamark ink, because we're going to do heat embossing. Before I do that, I do want to powder this, because this piece has been handled with gluey fingers and oil on my fingers and all kinds of stuff that can cause embossing powders to stick. We are now selling the embossing buddy. It comes in a bundle. You get the embossing buddy, you get a pair of reverse tweezers, a neat little brush to brush your embossing powder, and an embossing powder tray. So let me show you what all of that looks like. It's a great little set to have, all from Stampin' Up. There's your embossing buddy, your tray, your little brush, and these beautiful reverse tweezers. And these are made out of ceramic. The top of them, the bottom of them are metal. So they're very durable. They're put together really well. These reverse tweezers will probably last you a lifetime. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my gold embossing powder. I had to think for a minute which one I was using. I'm going to ink this up. And I'm getting a fair amount of that Versamark ink on that because I want to make sure that I get a good image. So I'm going to bring my piece of black cardstock up on my Stampin' Pierce mat. And I'm going to even this up and try to stamp this as straight as possible. Give it a good press. Lift it. And I don't know if you can see that, but I can definitely see it. So that usually when you can see your Versamark ink, you've got a pretty good impression on that. So I think I'm going to keep that out just for a minute. Let's go ahead and put the gold on it, and then we're going to do the other sentiment for the inside as well. I might just do that one in red. I like to do my stamping all at one time if I can. Oh yeah, that embossing buddy really does make the difference. So I like to hold mine upside down and kind of flick it just to get any of that excess embossing powder off that you don't want. That looks really pretty. And this is where those reverse tweezers come in so handy. You can literally hold your piece like that, and we can go ahead and heat set it. But I'm going to set it over to the side just for a moment because I'm not quite ready yet. Let's look at the inside here. And I think the inside would be pretty in just plain black. So I'm just going to stamp this in the Memento Tuxedo Black. And we're just going to simply say Merry Christmas. Right here at the bottom. I think that would be so cute. I am going to keep this piece on top of my Stampin' Pierce mat just to give me a little extra cushion there, because anytime you're dealing with photopolymer stamps, you need a little something to cushion the stamp. It gives you a much clearer, crisp image when you do that. So I'm going to ink that up. I'm going to check my stamp to see how it looks. It looks pretty good. And then I'm going to bring it over, and something's telling me I need to stamp this on something else first. This is the first time I've used this stamp. Ah, beautiful. That worked out really good. And I'm going to keep that because I might be able to use that on another card. So I'm going to bring this back over, and right here in the center bottom, I'm going to stamp Merry Christmas. So pretty. And I think that plays well with the red and the gold and the black with that black ink. I think it's perfect. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and cover up my Memento ink. Get that out of my way. And now we're ready to heat set that embossing powder. So I'm going to grab my heat gun. And this is going to make a little noise, but I like to heat it up before I actually take it to my paper. This is our Stampin' Up! Heat tool. And this one has two settings on it. You have a 1 and a 2. So for heat embossing, you always want to set it to the hottest temperature, which is 2. If you were drying a paper where you'd watercolored, you would use 1, or if you were trying to just dry some ink, like our craft ink or whatever, you put it on 1. So I'm going to flip it to 2. It does make a fair amount of noise. You want to keep this tip away from any type of surface that would melt because it does get really hot. So I'm going to let it heat for about 30 seconds, and then we're going to take it to our piece. And I love to heat emboss because I love the magic of watching it transform right in front of my eyes. So here we go. And you see how fast it works. Once you let this heat up, the embossing doesn't take any time at all. And look at that. Gold embossing can add so much to a piece. I think it's just absolutely beautiful. And I'm just going to bend that back a little bit. I might trim that down just a hair. Yeah, let's put that in the trimmer and cut it down. I'm going to take maybe about an 1/8 of an inch off of each end of it, maybe 1/4 off of the bottom. Yeah, I think I can do 1/4 off of the bottom. What do you think? Anytime you have a piece that's too small to hold on to, use one of your little sticky notes, and that way you can line it up exactly where you want it. Let that act as another hand for you. And then just stick it down. And that'll hold it in place. And you don't have to have an extra pair of fingers. And you don't have to worry about making sure that everything's right where it ought to be. So I'm going to do the same thing on this side. And I'm going to take about 1/4 inch off of that as well. Again, I'm going to use this as a handle just to help me keep it in place. And slice. Yeah, that looks much better. We didn't need a piece quite that thick, but I'd rather have a little bit more than what I think I need. You can always trim it down, but you definitely can't add it back. So I'm just going to take my fingers and go over top of this because I can see a little bit of that embossing powder. I just want to flatten that out a little bit, and we're going to put some dimensionals. I'm trying to decide if I want to ribbon tail this. And I don't think so. I think I'm just going to go flat in with this with some dimensionals. I think it'll look pretty like that. So grab my dimensionals one more time. And I think we're going to need about maybe 3 or 4 across here. So let's do 1, 2, 3, and 4. Again, I'm going to use my Take Your Pick tool just to lift these off. And then we'll bring the card back, and we are going to put this right here, directly under that. And now we can get that pretty gold ribbon that I laid out. There we go. Alright, this is a very pretty gold shimmery ribbon. You can see how well it goes with the embossing. So we're going to tie a small bow, and I'm just going to do a simple 1 loop bow, and I want to trim the end of my ribbon before I start because it is frayed a little bit on the end. So I'm just going to clip that off. So I'm going to cut myself off about 12 inches. It helps to have a little bit more than not enough. So now we got plenty. So let's loop it through. I'm just doing a single loop bow. I usually do doubles, but I'm only going to do a single on this one. So you only need to wrap it around your finger 1 time, each finger, and pull that together. Bring this back under here. See, having that extra ribbon makes it so much easier to do. Now make sure that loop goes in the middle and not around your finger. And just pull it, work it back and forth, and there is your bow. Nice little simple loop bow. Pull your tails down because our tails always need to go down. And cut that off even. And now we're ready to put this little bow onto our card. And again, my favorite way to do that is using a glue dot. So I'm just going to pick up a glue dot with the ribbon itself. Always sticks really good to ribbon. And then we're just going to pop this right here at the top of that frame. Look how pretty. There is our very first Christmas card for 2022. And I love the way it turned out. I think it's so gorgeous. Simple, elegant, and it's got a puppy dog on it. How sweet is that? May your days be furry and bright. Merry Christmas. I think any dog lover would love to get this card, but not just a dog lover. I can see a grandchild getting a card like this. Just so many different people you could send this card to, from the old to the young. I think everybody would love this card. It's elegant enough for an adult, fun enough for a kid, and everybody in between. So let me know what y'all think of our little Scottie, our Christmas Scottie, and working it out with our circles. And I'm gonna come back and do the same thing, the May Your Days Be Furry and Bright on this one, and stamp a Merry Christmas inside here. And then I'll have both of these on my blog for you to look at. And you let me know what you think, if this is something that you would enjoy making, and if it is, go pick up a set of this. It's really a beautiful little set, and like I said, I love the little plaid. I'm definitely going to do something with that. I'm thinking maybe cut the piece out and glue it on the front of a card and put the little Scottie sitting up right in front of it. I think it'd be adorable like that. So be on the lookout, because there's more of the Christmas Scottie coming. So thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. God bless and keep you. All of you mean so much. I couldn't do this without you. I couldn't bring you the videos if y'all were not here to watch it. And I just thank you so much. And as I always say in closing, let everything that you do and say bring glory to our Father in heaven. He is so worthy. So until we craft again, God bless and keep you. Bye-bye.